I'm sorry about the slight yellowish tint. I haven't been dipping my slides in tea or something like that. It's bright white on this screen. No matter how much we changed it during tech check, it's slightly yellow there. So this wasn't a design choice. I'm delighted to be here. I was employee number 5 at NX and Narwhal back then in 2017, and to see such an amazing group of people come together to celebrate the project and what we've been working on is just so rewarding. So it's great to see you all here. Thank you. As they mentioned, I live in the Middle East, as you can tell by my beautiful tan that I've been working on. I am epically jet-lagged. That's the only way to describe it. So I'm going to try and keep up the pace and the momentum. But one thing I've interestingly decided to do today is pre-record my demos, which I have never done before in any talk. So it's going to be interesting. I look forward to finding this out with you, exactly how it goes. As mentioned, some highlights. My favorite one is the packages I have directly created have been downloaded over 23.6 billion times now. And that's a crazy number. If only I got a cent for every one. I do describe that to my friends sometimes. They're like, oh, whoa. And I'm like, nah, it's not what you think. So versioning and publishing. That's an interesting one. NX has always been about providing you with intelligent, composable primitives that you can do all manner of things with. And versioning and publishing historically has squarely fitted within that realm. NX will give you the building blocks, and it's entirely up to you to build the thing that you like to do. Now, this works really well if you love a particular tool. Maybe you love using Lerna. Maybe you use something like ChangeSets or Release It. There's a lot of different versioning and publishing tools in the ecosystem, and that's great because that means all manner of different approaches can be provided for and iterated on by different folks. If you don't want to use a tool that somebody's made, if you have very particular preferences, you can build your own. So we give you executors and generators as these primitives that you can use, and you can wrap anything. You could use the npm CLI, wrap it with a simple executor. You could generate standard config for every project you make. Or somewhere in the middle, folks from the community can do that kind of manual work with a custom executor and generators, and they can publish that to npm, and then you can use that tool. So there's a whole spectrum of ways in which people approach versioning and publishing. Now, this was historically kind of good enough, I would say, and again, NX is providing these robust primitives for you, so you can get your stuff done. But the kind of decision fatigue and paralysis by just the sheer options that you have available to you, well, oh, that looks all right on that screen. It looks horrendous on that screen. Just you have so much choice that it's kind of paralyzing sometimes to make that decision. Which one do I want? Is this the best one? People are always looking for the best version. And that can be kind of tricky. So we've really been thinking about, okay, so we often do provide some kind of generated, not really like the best approach, but a kind of an approach we believe in on the team that we know is useful, know is valuable. And we wanted to bring something like that to the versioning and publishing space because we fundamentally are a series of packages that we publish and we version. And not only that, NX, as you've heard multiple times today, even though our core user base is primarily JavaScript developers, NX is agnostic to technologies and frameworks and everything else. So really, versioning and publishing is a concern that touches every language and every ecosystem. When I've been building out what I'm about to show you, I worked on publishing some Rust crates and things like that alongside my JavaScript packages. So it's things like that which is not so easy to do in the community, which in order to build something that's very generically applicable. So we've been thinking about what can we do on the NX team. So I'd like to introduce you today to NX release. This is a brand new command on the CLI, and it's designed to help you with versioning, changelog generation / GitHub releases, and publishing. And you'll notice by these descriptions that I have on the slide that at no point do I actually say package or package JSON or npm. These concerns are actually cross-language cutting. So for the rest of the talk, the demos will be JavaScript flavored because that's what a lot of us do on a day-to-day basis. But everything I'm discussing, we're really excited about where this can go. things like publishing multiple languages to different registries, things like application deployments, and maybe non-semver related versionings, things like that. So this is early days, but we're super excited to share this milestone with you today. The most exciting milestone we've reached is now, as of this week, the NX repo itself is using NX release to publish itself. This is obviously a big milestone for us, but it also means we can dog food it very aggressively, make it better. The one caveat to what I'm going to describe is documentation is lagging slightly, so we're going to be adding documentation over the coming weeks to try and flesh this out. So for now, this demo is the source of truth for how the thing works. Configuration is likely to adjust and change as we add more features, but we do have these 3 commands that you can invoke, and you can chain together some quite powerful workflows already. So excited to share it with you. The thing I would really strongly emphasize is everything I've discussed about community plugins, other tools like Lerna, change sets, release it, whatever, none of that is invalidated by this effort. None of that is invalidated by what I'm about to show you, by NX release. Anything you use today, anything you like to use, is still the thing that you can use. There's no emphasis from us to switch to this or anything like that. We're hoping to provide an excellent end-to-end experience for people that want this, but just as before, the whole point of NX is you can bring your secret sauce, you can bring your preferences, and use NX to still make those valuable and repeatable and scalable for your teams. So as I say, what I've done now is I've embedded a video of the demo into my talk. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be an experience. And remember, I control when you take your lunch break, so I need to feel the love in the room for this. Yeah. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. So here we have the most basic vanilla npm package you can possibly imagine. I have generated a package JSON only using npm init. I have an index.js with a function in it, with a feature in it, and we have a git ignore ignoring our node modules. It's as vanilla as it gets. I'm going to install NX. Definitely don't pay attention to the version number. It's definitely real. Don't even worry about it. And I'm going to install that package from my registry. It would obviously be npm. In this case, it's a registry on my local machine. And then the only configuration we need is just to let NX know that this is a node on the graph. So this tiny annotation in my package JSON lets NX know that this is a node on the project graph. Apart from that, we don't need a project JSON, an NX JSON, nothing else. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to add a feature by writing a comment. I'm going to add a feature to my library. It's very sophisticated. And I'm going to commit that feature as something I want to get ready to version, publish, and release. So that's my brand new feature. I'm going to stick with conventional commits structure. And as you can see, I had my V1 release, then I added another feature, and then I've added a second feature on top. So my work in progress since my latest release, I've created 2 new features, basically. So we're going to want to do a minor release for this. So let's bring NX release into the equation. So we have this top-level command, NX release, and it has a sub-command called version. Like any good, powerful NX thing we can do, we have a nice dry run mode built in. So if I don't provide a specifier, it's going to ask me for one. I can choose a semver keyword, or I can enter one manually. It will validate that that's a correct semver version. So if I don't want to get the prompt, I can provide a specifier inline on the command. I can say like a relative keyword. I can say an exact version that I want to release. I have that option. If I don't want to run the full version every time, if I don't want to type it out, I can type just V. And if I don't want to type dry run, I can do -D. So I can make it nice and terse. And then this is the kind of output you will get. So you'll see that we've read information from disk, from the package JSON, and we've resolved the current version as being 1.0.0. We've said we want to do a minor release, so we're going to bump to 1.1.0. And unlike our generators today, we've actually got this nice little diff output of our package JSON. As you saw, we did a dry run, so none of that has been propagated to disk yet. So what we'll do now is we'll rerun that command without the -D. And now you can see there's no dry run preview. We still see the nice diff, but we can jump over to the package JSON and see that our version has been applied. So that's kind of the demo of the version command. Again, this is the most vanilla case. Like NX is not needing to get an NX JSON to make this work. We've just applied this on a package-based monorepo. Package-based single repo. So now we'll run the changelog command. It's another subcommand of nx release. We'll say that we're doing our v1.1.0 release. And again, we do have a nice dry run flag. So we can see a preview of the changelog markdown file that would be generated. If you remember, I had 2 commits. They both happen to have the same commit message, but I have 2 different feature commits. They have been extracted from my commit data, and I've generated a changelog from that. Again, I can run the shorthand of just C instead of changelog, and I can do -d. But then there's another interesting flag on changelog, which is I can pass --interactive. I don't know if you've ever been creating a changelog with tooling and you've wanted to just kind of add in an extra bit or remove something that shouldn't have been in there or whatever. We will actually spawn an interactive editor for you to allow you to tweak the changelog before it gets propagated, even in dry run mode. So I'm making a change here in dry run mode, and I will see in my preview the content that I added to the changelog. In this case, I added content. I could have moved commits around. I could have added extra stuff. It's all possible with the interactive flag. Again, I can run a -i for short, so we can make this nice and terse. So if I run this time without dry run, I can make a change. This time, it's going to propagate this through to disk for me. So it's going to create that changelog file on disk. As you'll notice, it also extracted the contributor data from the commits. So it thanked me at the bottom for having contributed to this release, which is kind of a nice feature for you building out kind of community vibes, I would say. So we've got our changelog file. We've updated our package JSON for this release. Now we can commit that and call it good. And then we can focus on actually taking this updated file and these are the updated files and publishing them to a registry. So as a reminder, we still don't have any config here. This is just NX understanding how package-based repos should be released. So we can do publish, and we also have a dry run flag on publish. So the entirety of your end-to-end workflow is dry runnable. We'll pass that dry run through to the npm publishing action that takes place, and we can see we have a custom output here that says would publish to the registry. In my case, it's a localhost registry, and we would publish it with tag latest, but the dry run flag was set. But we can still see a full preview of the tar that gets generated, the file sizes, the chars, everything like that with our dry run mode. So when we want to repeat this, we just need to run nx release. We can run p for short. Now we see the actual output published to, and we've managed to publish our single package. So that's pretty cool. No config needed. We published everything through. So I'm going to hurry on to the next example. Now we have things kicking up a notch. We've jumped into an existing package-based monorepo. It's using pnpm workspaces in this case. We still don't have any NX.json or anything, but all I've done is add NX.js and NX to the mix. Definitely a real version. Don't even worry about it. And we have an existing changelog here. So this is NX is coming into a repo where there's an existing process, an existing methodology. It doesn't matter. Just looking closely at our packages here, it's still relatively simple, but this time we actually have multiple packages and they have a relationship with each other. So package A depends on package B. So the source code is literally just pulling in the function, invoking it. As you can see, we've had a bug fix, and we've had a feature, we've had a fix added to these things. And so when we inspect the changes, our commits that we've got on the Git index, we will see that we've got quite a few things that haven't been versioned and released since the last time we did an official publish from this repo. So we've got the chore of adding NX most recently, as I mentioned. So NX wasn't in the mix until this point. Before that, we fixed all packages, so there's no scope there. We had a feature just to package B. We had a feature to package A, a feature to package B, a fix to package A, and you can see these are in different orders. And that takes us back to our previous release that's been tagged with v1.0. So quite a few things going on here. And when you think about larger repos with multiple packages, you can have lots of changes that are getting bundled into a particular release. So one of the things I wanted to emphasize here is that we can do some work up front to make that changelog generation much more readable, scannable, if we can take into account the different scopes of changes. This time when we're running release version, we can see that we've got an even richer diff now, because in addition to versioning each package, Nx knows the relationship between those packages, so it can say applying the new version to one package which depends on package B. So in package A here, we're updating not just the version field, but also that relationship, that dependency on package B. And you see all of that in this nice little Git-style diff. So v.1.0 has been applied in all the relevant locations. And now we can come through and generate some changelog data for that release. So if you remember, we had a load of commits. One applied to all the projects. We had a few that applied to just package A, package B, and they were out of order. There wasn't like any kind of grouping in there. But if we have a look at what NX release changelog did for us, it has grouped things by type, first of all. So we have features grouped together, and we have fixes grouped together. Within that, we have a grouping by scope, and that scope is alphabetized. So you can see package A is first. Then we have a cluster of package B commits. And then in the fixes category, you can see that we did a fix that applied to all projects. So that comes first. And then we have a package A scoped fix in there as well. Again, we have the contributor me being thanked because I did great work. And V1 is nicely in there because what we're doing, obviously, is prepending this to existing changelog data. This is a diff on that file. But again, dry run, so we haven't actually done anything yet. We can nicely figure out what do we need. Do we need to jump into interactive mode to tweak this before we push it through? In this case, I'm going to add something because it's fun to use this interactive mode. And it's an exciting release for sure. So once we do that, we'll actually push this through and update the changelog file. And then a lot of people like to benefit not just from managing changelog files in their workspace, but they like to create GitHub releases as well. In the NX repo, we actually don't put a changelog file in the repo at all. We just create the GitHub release. So for sure, it was a design goal of NX release changelog to manage the GitHub release process for us. So I'm going to revert that change to the changelog for now, redo NX release changelog, but this time look at GitHub and apply an extra flag to NX release changelog called create release. And at the moment, this takes just GitHub, but we can expand this to Bitbucket and GitLab and stuff in the future. It still takes a dry run flag because we still want to iterate on our changelog before we actually push it through. But this time, you'll notice in the output, it's previewing a changelog entry and a GitHub release for that version. It will show you the URL that would be generated, and it shows you that it's creating that URL and updating the changelog markdown file on disk. But right now, because we're in dry run mode, nothing has happened. So we will repeat that action, and this time remove the dry run flag. Type, 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 type. I'll add some extra content just to prove that this will make its way all the way through to the GitHub release. As you can tell, I really like this interactive mode. So yeah, now we have actually created, you can see the message, the dry run has gone. If we refresh on GitHub, sure enough, now we have our GitHub release created. And as I say, we'll bring support for multiple source control providers in the future. But we have all of our content mirrored on changelog and on GitHub releases. As I say, you can go for one, you can go for the other, you can go for both. All the options are possible. If you didn't want the changelog file like we don't on the NX repo, you can do -- file equals false, or you can do -- file equals releases.markdown if you want to rename it or something. It's all supported. So with our monorepo now, we have this relationship between the two packages. A depends on B. So when we run publishing, NX actually is creating, you saw in a kind of a preview in Craigery's talk, we're actually creating a target for you behind the scenes without you having to manage it at all. And because we know how to build task graphs and how dependencies work, even though A alphabetically would come first running publishing, we know that B should really go first because B needs to be in place for A to be reliably published. So if, for example, npm were to go down or your network connection were to drop, you don't want to have published yourself into a partial unworking state. So we will run the publish commands in the right order using the knowledge we already have about your repo to make sure that things are available on the repo in the order you would expect them to be. So we've run that output. You can see it looks very familiar to you for running NX run or NX run many. You can happily rerun it any number of times. We will skip over any packages that have already been published at that version and tag combination. So it's a very safe operation. You can repeat publishing as many times as you need to. And hopefully it's clear that like all of this has been achieved without any config whatsoever. That is not to say that we don't want to support config. We very much do. So if I just quickly, in the kind of last few seconds I have left, show you on the NX repo itself, we have a new top-level entry into our NX.json, which again, isn't necessary for these common cases of multiple npm packages in a repo, but if you do need to configure things, release groups is how you achieve that. So we're really excited about the power of this concept of grouping projects together to organize them. So for example, you might have a Rust group and a JavaScript group in future. You might have apps versioned at a certain version and packages versioned at a different version. It's really up to you. All the power of these specifiers, you'll be familiar with filtering on projects. You can do negation, you can do glob patterns, you can do directory structures, and this allows you to then override some of the options we've seen. So if you remember, we read the latest version from disk in a package JSON, but maybe you want to run it from the registry. Maybe you want to do like an npm view, resolve that from the registry. That's going to be possible as well. So I would say of all the things, the reason I haven't focused on the config too much is this is most likely to change in the immediate future as we build out more and more kind of blessed use cases and stuff like that. But as I mentioned, we are publishing real releases using this stuff. You'll see the familiar thank you. On the NX repo, we actually resolve people's GitHub usernames using this stuff, and that's available to you as well using this tool. You don't have to configure anything for that. So when you actually publish to GitHub, it will tag the contributor, and then GitHub automatically sticks the people down the bottom. And our publishing automatically takes into account provenance data with npm. So if that's something you've seen that you want to have your signed releases that get traced back to a particular Git commit, that's all handled by you just setting the environment variable that's supported by the npm CLI. We support it as well, so that's all possible. So excited to bring lots more to this space. Conventional commits as a preset for you to resolve the current version from your commit history, change set style files on disk, CI/CD concerns, like generating CI/CD processes for you to have all of this set up end-to-end for you automatically, and lots of docs. Docs will be coming very, very soon. So thanks very much. That's all from me.